Hello. Welcome to this vast journey of peace within, the miracles of relaxing science right into the heart of our planet. Tonight, we are completely detaching your consciousness from the noise, speed, and rush of the everyday world. We are embarking on a very deep descent into the silent, massive, and ancient memory that has been breathing for billions of years beneath your footsteps, into the fascinating and meditative world of geology. The ground you are resting on right now is actually the latest, freshest page of a giant book that has been written for billions of years. Tonight, we will discover that rocks are not just solid objects, but living memories. The first image I want you to visualize is that steady crust we walk upon. Imagine yourself looking at our world from the depths of space. This thin outer layer of the blue and green sphere is actually more elegant and fragile than you might imagine. Science tells us that if you could shrink the Earth to the size of an apple held in your hand, that hard crust where we build cities, where forests take root, and where vast oceans stretch, would be no thicker than the skin of that apple. This idea should bring a sense of tranquility to your mind. We are sleeping upon this thin and compassionate mantle of stone that the world has woven to protect us from the giant fire at the planet's heart. While this crust reaches an average depth of 30 kilometers under the continents, it sometimes becomes thinner than 10 kilometers beneath the vast blues of the oceans. Think about it. Just beneath that immense oceanic pressure, lies that tiny layer of stone hiding the world's deepest secrets. And right below this layer, the mysterious region called the mantle begins. The mantle is neither fully solid nor fully liquid. It is a giant river of rock flowing slowly through millions of years under pressure that defies the limits of imagination, and heat that rivals the surface of the sun. Try to feel this slowness. In the depths of the mantle, rocks move heavily like honey, like molten glass. This flow is not a hurried one. It is as slow as the growth of a human fingernail, but powerful enough to move a planet. The continents we live on are like giant rafts floating on this slow river. Feel the peace of this immense movement beneath you. The world is reshaping itself for you every moment, but it does so with such great patience that we can only hear its silence. When we look closer at the chemistry of this thin crust, we see nature's most perfect partnerships. Almost the entire crust is woven with silicate minerals, with that immense geometric order created by oxygen and silicon holding hands in the depths of the earth. The most common of these are the feldspars. With every step you take, you pass over this ancient mineral, even if you are unaware of it. Feldspars are washed by rains and winds for millions of years and eventually turn into soft clay, nourishing the soil. This is the story of hardness turning into softness, of stone turning into life. Next comes quartz, the most resilient child of nature. Quartz stands tall against the wearing power of time. When rocks crumble into dust, the only thing that remains is the sparkle of quartz in its pure whiteness. Every single white grain of sand that slips through your fingers on the beaches today, actually came from the highest peak of a giant mountain that once existed and has long since vanished. That grain of sand once touched the clouds. Now, it washes ashore with the rhythmic, meditative sound of the sea waves and rests in your palm. Think of the paths this grain of sand has traveled, the storms it has seen, and the peace it has finally found. Time does not flow in seconds in geology as we know it. Here, time is measured by the patience of stone. Imagine that immense energy required for a mountain to rise, those gentle touches of plates against each other lasting for millions of years. This process, which we call plate tectonics, is the world's way of constantly renewing itself. The Earth's crust is not a single piece, it consists of plates interlocked like giant puzzle pieces. These plates move away from each other or glide toward each other with the warm breath of the mantle beneath them. In the dark and silent depths of the ocean, at those points where plates separate, fresh, red lavas rise from the heart of the earth. The moment they meet the water, they greet it with a giant cloud of steam, and in seconds, a new piece of the world. A fresh crust is born. On the other side, when giant continental plates collide head-on, neither gives up. The earth in between is slowly folded toward the sky, centimeter by centimeter, with a pressure lasting millions of years. The Himalayas, the Alps, the Andes. They are monuments to that immense thrusting power the world feels for itself, to that giant embrace. A seashell fossil found today at the summit of Everest proves to us that time and movement can change everything. That tiny creature, which was once at the deepest point of the ocean in absolute darkness, is now sleeping its eternal sleep at the highest peak of the world, where the sun first touches the earth. Feel this patient operation of time. You are on a planet that builds everything in its own time and in its own place, without hurrying for anything. Mountains rise. Glaciers carve valleys, and the wind will one day turn even the hardest rock into dust. This is the world breathing in and out. Rise and fall, birth and transformation. Within this giant cycle, you are in the safest place. The thousands of kilometers of stone layers beneath you embrace you compassionately. That deep, heavy, and unshakable pulse of the world harmonizes with the beats of your heart. Leave your breath to this slowness. Surrender yourself to that silent migration of continents, to that protective warmth beneath the crust. Now, all the weights in your mind are crumbling away just like those eroding rocks. All that remains is the patience of stone, the peace of the world, and that healing depth of sleep. While you sleep, the world will continue to transform in your place, to shift its plates, and to whisper new mountains. You don't need to do anything. Just trust this ancient tranquility and leave yourself in the arms of the world. Heavy your eyes a bit more, and now, let's take a gentle journey with our minds beyond that thin, cool crust we walk upon, toward that ancient fire at the heart of the world. We are gliding into the igneous world, the purest, most turbulent, yet most creative starting point of geology. This is the place where fire turns into stone, where movement is sealed with absolute silence. Everything begins with that energy trapped under pressure that defies the limits of our imagination, and heat that rivals the sun's warmth, kilometers beneath the earth, magma. Magma is not just a heap of molten rock. It represents the uncooled youth of our planet, that ancient energy flowing in its veins. It contains immense amounts of dissolved gases, water vapor, and precious minerals that have been there since the beginning of the universe. Magma moves in giant chambers beneath the earth like an orange river glowing in the middle of darkness. Science tells us that this fire has two different fates. One is the story of patience, the other is the story of speed. Let's first focus on the story of patience, the journey of that magma that remains deep underground. Some magmas find no way to reach the surface and see the sky. They are trapped in giant stone hulls kilometers beneath the earth. Here, completely insulated from the cold and wind of the outside world, they begin to wait in that protective darkness of the earth. This waiting is the beginning of a geological miracle. The cooling process is so slow that centuries pass, millennia pass, and millions of years are left behind. This infinite time frame offers a very special blessing to the minerals within the magma, the time to crystallize. Minerals find each other within this vast slowness, hold hands, and create perfect geometric lattices. Quartz, feldspar, and mica, each waits for its turn, finds its own form. This is how the magnificent, unshakable, and solemn granite is born. That glittering, speckled, and hard structure of granite is actually a metal of that silent cooling session lasting millions of years. When you hold a piece of granite, you are actually touching that millions of years of deep peace and patience at the heart of the world. Every sparkle inside that stone is a sign of the journey of a once molten fire toward tranquility. However, not all magma is this patient. Some, taking advantage of a crack in the Earth's crust, a weak moment of the world, leap to the surface with great noise and passion. Now its name is lava. The critical moment when lava comes into contact with the cool air of the sky, or the freezing waters of the ocean, everything changes in an instant. That turbulent, glowing fire is extinguished in seconds. This sudden cooling is so fast that it gives the minerals no time to crystallize, no time to establish their perfect geometries. Atoms freeze right where they are, in that shock and speed. From this rapid birth emerges that smooth, dark-colored, and dignified basalt. Basalt is the youngest and most dynamic face of the world. Almost all of our ocean floors are covered with this black and solemn basalt mantle. Imagine, in the deepest and darkest points of the ocean, those red-hot lavas erupting from beneath the earth suddenly solidify with the freezing cold of the water, creating a new world, a new ground to step on. This immense encounter of fire and water has been continuing silently for millions of years. That deep blackness of basalt is proof that the violent fire it once carried has now been completely extinguished and has found peace. Sometimes this cooling is so extreme and so fast that nature offers us another of its miracles, obsidian. Volcanic glass. Imagine magma freezing in a second and turning into a glass as sharp and smooth as a blade. It has no crystal structure, it is just frozen light and trapped energy. Looking at obsidian, you can see how something once fluid and fiery has evolved into a silence as clear as a mirror and as sharp as a knife. The chemistry of magma is as diverse as its character. Felsic magmas, with their dense silica, are lighter in color, more viscous, and more gentle in structure. They create the glittering spirit of granite. Mafic magmas are filled with the power of magnesium and iron. They are more fluid, heavier, and they create the jet black, solemn body of basalt. These two extreme characters establish that immense balance of our world. That silent harmony between the light-colored continents and the dark-colored ocean floors is born from this millions of years of dance between these two types of magma. Revisualize that scene at the bottom of the ocean in your mind. Those red-hot lavas gliding from beneath the earth in the freezing darkness of the water, reaching tranquility by solidifying in an instant. That heat is over, that turbulence has subsided, all that remains is a solid, cool, and ancient rock you can safely rest upon. Envelop yourself in the peace of that stone. Feel all your inner turmoil, all the fatigue of your day, slowly cooling, solidifying, and finally reaching a peaceful silence, just like those lavas. From fire to stone. From movement to an absolute stillness. The peace of this transformation surrounds your entire body. You are now at the point where that inner fire has subsided, leaving its place to a cool and unshakable confidence. While you sleep, those giant granite chambers kilometers beneath the earth will continue to cool, crystals will continue to grow, and the world will continue to weave its own patience. You don't need to do anything. Just trust this great transformation and leave yourself to the sleep of that ancient, cool stone. Sleep well, the fire of the world has subsided with your peace. After that first solid world where fire found its tranquility, it is now time to meet nature's most patient artist, water. With your mind, leave the turbulent heat of the magma and glide toward a cool mountain slope, a riverbed, or the absolute silence of the ocean. Sedimentary rocks are the most comprehensive journals kept by the world. If igneous rocks are the first cry of the earth, sedimentary rocks are a vast epic of millions of pages. This epic is written with a process that shows no sign of haste, hallowing the thousands of years of journey of a single grain of sand. Everything begins on those majestic peaks of the mountains with weathering. For millions of years, every time the rains hit those hard rocks, every time the wind blows, and every time ice freezes in the cracks of the stones, the mountains slowly surrender. Giant granite blocks are broken down into tiny fragments, into sediments. By this gentle but persistent touch of time, this fragmentation is not an end, on the contrary, it is the beginning of a new story. Water takes these tiny stone fragments, minerals, and dust into its lap and embarks on a journey. Imagine, a river carries those tiny quartz crystals and feldspar crumbs it has plucked from high peaks for kilometers. As the water flows, the stones touch each other, grinding one another, the edges are rounded. The hardness is softened. Every pebble, every grain of sand finds its own smoothness on this journey. Finally, they reach those peaceful lake shores where the water flow slows down, or the deep, dark sedimentation basins of the oceans. Here, the noise ends. The particles settle to the bottom of the water, into that silent darkness, in the compassionate embrace of gravity. Centuries, millennia pass. Layer upon layer accumulates. The lowermost layers begin to compress under the effect of this immense and peaceful weight pressing down on them. Our original text whispers this miraculous transformation to us as lithification. Minerals within the water seep between these grains and bind them together like a natural cement. Loose muds harden into shale, and river sands turn into that textured sandstone. Imagine those fine lines on the surface of sandstone. They are the frozen waves of a river that flowed, or a desert wind that blew millions of years ago. Touching a sandstone is like holding the hand of an ancient wind directly. However, at the heart of sedimentary rocks lies life itself. On the shallow and warm shores of the oceans, the remains of billions of small-shelled creatures, corals, and microscopic organisms accumulate. These remains, over time, form those magnificent limestones. The vast white chalk cliffs or giant canyon walls you see in the world today are actually the common monument of billions of creatures that once breathed in the ocean. They are the state of life turned into stone. Between these rocks, not only minerals, but sometimes a leaf, sometimes a bone, and sometimes the trace of an ancient sea are trapped. Fossils. Sedimentary rocks are nature's most secure time capsules. In these deep layers where oxygen and decay cannot reach, time stands still. Examining a sedimentary rock layer is like reading a day in the history of the world. The only reason you can see the veins of a leaf that fell into the mud 300 million years ago today is this eternal protection offered by these rocks. Visualize an ocean floor in your mind. It is so deep and so calm that the cry of the storms above never reaches here. Only a very fine rain of dust is falling. Millimeter by millimeter, century by century, these dusts are building the mountains of the future. Feel this immense slowness of time. You don't need to hurry anywhere. The world is placing every particle in its place with great care. Imagine yourself lying between these soft, cool layers. Be enveloped by this safe cover that the world offers you. That light, meditative pressure on you invites you to the eternal silence of the earth. Get lost among the layers, glide beyond time. Now you are ready to descend into the smoothest, calmest sediment of sleep. Everything is accumulating, everything is finding peace. We descend even deeper from that silent sleep of the sedimentary layers, kilometers beneath the earth. This is the place where everything changes completely, where stones leave their old identities behind and assume a new soul. Metamorphism, the story of a stone being forged anew in those giant kilns in the depths of the earth. In this process, the stone neither melts and liquefies, nor breaks and scatters, under an unimaginable pressure and heat. It is reorganized at the atomic level while maintaining its solid state. This is nature's epic of patience and resilience at its most extreme. Imagine those giant pressure chambers. Above you is a rock mass kilometers thick, putting tons of weight on every square centimeter. At the same time, that ancient heat rising from the core of the earth is close enough to soften the rock. At this critical threshold, the stone can no longer remain in its old state. Minerals mix, forms change. An ordinary and porous limestone, under this immense weight, realigns its crystals and transforms into that smooth, noble marble. That veined structure of marble is actually the state of those soft creature remains that once lived on the ocean floor, transformed into beauty through the sacred change they underwent in the depths of the earth. Another fascinating transformation occurs in schist and gneiss rocks. When giant continental plates push against each other, the pressure on the rocks comes from a single direction. This causes the minerals inside the stone, such as mica, to align parallel to each other like the pages of a notebook. When you hold a piece of gneiss in your hand, those light and dark colored lines on it are the frozen graphs of that immense thrusting power created when two continents collided millions of years ago. Instead of being crushed under that pressure, the stone has managed to survive by changing its shape. This is one of the greatest adaptation stories in the universe. And diamonds. The most extreme, clearest fruit of metamorphism. Carbon atoms, in that inconceivable darkness 150 kilometers below the surface, clenched together so tightly that the hardest, purest substance in the universe is born. A diamond is the highest rank reached by a once ordinary carbon in the face of difficulties and weights. That waiting that lasts for billions of years in that pitch darkness, represents the clearest memory of the planet when it finally reaches the light. The great knot where all these stories unite is the rock cycle. Geology whispers to us that nothing remains the same forever. An igneous rock erupting from a volcano can turn into a sedimentary rock through weathering. That sedimentary rock can be buried underground and undergo metamorphism. And finally, it can descend even deeper and melt back into magma. This is the world's never-ending song of recycling. Our planet has been constantly rebuilding its own body for billions of years. No piece is wasted. Now, find your own place within this giant cycle. You, too, are a part of this atomic dance. Feel that soft weight of your blanket. Imagine yourself softening, changing shape, and resting with this peaceful weight. Instead of being crushed under all the fatigue and pressure of the day, just like a metamorphic rock. The darkness does not frighten you, on the contrary, it is protective and transformative like the place where a diamond is formed. Leave yourself to that deep, slow, and unshakable pulse of the world. Continents are shifting, stones are transforming, time is flowing. And you are in the safest sleep, at the heart of this immense order. Heavy your eyes a little more, and now, let yourself go into that vast, shoreless, stagnant, and clear river of time. We, as beings trapped in the tiny seconds, minutes, and years of a human lifespan, always find it difficult to imagine eternity. However, this massive and solemn sphere beneath us, the Earth, does not measure time with the ticking of clocks as we do, but with the cycles of breathing stones, rising mountains, and drying oceans. Geological time is a story of patience beyond the mind. This is not just a dusty record of the past, it is an ancient and eternal dream hidden within every grain of sand, every layer of rock, and every crystal. Imagine, when the Earth was still a baby, born as a ball of fire in that dusty, chaotic, and dark void of the solar system, time as we know it had not yet been invented. Now, we are passing into a very slow glide behind those misty, fiery curtains of the Hadean. I am talking about 4.5 billion years ago. Let this number echo in your mind like a mantra, 4,500,000,000 years. If we could fit the entire magnificent history of the Earth into a single 24-hour day, the entire story of humanity would not even fit into the last half-second of that day. We are only the latest, most elegant note of this giant and perfect symphony. But tonight, we are guests at those first silent beats of the symphony, at those first seconds when the world began to solidify. In those times, the Earth was not a place to walk upon, but a glowing and molten sea of lava. The sky was purple, the atmosphere was heavy, hot, and smelled of sulfur. But even in that magnificent chaos, there was an order, a preparation. When the first solid stones began to form, the Earth began to accumulate its first memories. Visualize the formation of that first crust in your mind. That miraculous, that sacred moment when the glowing lavas met those first raindrops that fell from the sky and lasted for thousands of years. Feel in your heart the rising of the steam in giant clouds, and the fire slowly extinguishing and turning into a gray, solemn, and hard stone. At that moment, the memory of the world was born. Since that day, the world has never forgotten anything that happened to it, nor any wind that passed over it. It has silently sealed every drop, every ray of sunlight between those stones. Let's continue to glide down the river of time, toward that deep tranquility. We are entering the vast silence of the Archean and Proterozoic eons. In this longest sleep of the earth, there were not yet flowers, trees, or animals as we know them. There were only the first breaths of microscopic life, cyanobacteria. In those shallow and warm shores of the oceans. For billions of years, these tiny creatures took sunlight every single day and turned it into oxygen. They did not hurry. One by one, drop by drop, they prepared the atmosphere for us. That cool, peaceful breath you take into your lungs right now, is actually a gift of the patience of those tiny creatures that lived billions of years ago. Imagine their silent work among the rhythmic waves of the ocean. Every wave brought a little more life, a little more peace to the world. And then, with the Cambrian explosion, that colorful and miraculous diversity of life begins. We are opening the doors of the Phanerozoic Eon. Imagine those shallow seas of the Paleozoic era. Times when no creature had yet stepped onto land, and only that meditative, that healing rhythm of the water reigned. That deep silence where trilobites glided through those silent underwater kingdoms as if in a dream, and where corals built giant towers and castles with a patience lasting for millennia. A piece of limestone you hold today is a frozen, petrified memory of that silent kingdom. When you touch that stone, you are actually touching the coolness and peace of a sea from 300 million years ago. Feel that the heavy, safe waters of the ocean, which surround you from all sides, also surround your mind. In this immense slowness of time, no anxiety, no speed, no world rush can reside. There is only the pure peace of existing. Time continues to flow. We reach the magnificence of the Mesozoic era, the age of giants. Those magnificent periods when the ground shook with the steps of dinosaurs, but the mountains looked at these tremors with only a wise smile. The continents were still a whole. That giant supercontinent called Pangaea was stretching heavily like a sleeping giant, carrying giant fern forests upon it. There were no borders yet, the vast steppes and forests were in one piece. Then, with that melancholic silence of a separation lasting for millions of years, the continents began to move away from each other. The Atlantic Ocean was formed drop by drop, century by century, in the void left by this silent separation. Watch the birth of an ocean in slow motion in your mind. How a crack turned into a small lake in thousands of years, into a deep sea in millions of years, and finally into that vast blue that ships cross today. This is the purest, most sacred form of patience. These lands, this bed where you are preparing to sleep peacefully right now, are actually only a very small stop on this giant journey. The stones beneath you saw the freezing silence of the ice ages, and the humid, lively, and noisy life of the tropical forests. Giant glaciers came and carved valleys with their immense weight, crushing the hardest rocks. Then the sun came back, melted those ices compassionately, and made the rivers overflow. Everything is a cycle, everything is a breath in and out. The earth chose the most suitable, the calmest moment for you to sleep, rest, and be renewed in its own giant timeline. Never let this depth of time frighten you, on the contrary, let it take all the burdens off your shoulders. Knowing that you are a part of this millions of years of history, this immense chain, reminds us how small daily troubles are. You are a very special, much awaited, and much loved syllable in this magnificent story of the world. You are as permanent as stones, as free as the wind, and as deep as the oceans. Now lose yourself in the safe arms of this ancient time. Glide from the silence of the Archean to the magnificence of the Jurassic, and from there to the cool, peaceful night of today. The world has been waiting for you for billions of years for this moment. Tonight, you can fall into your safest sleep in the lap of that giant memory. Continue to flow in the river of time, the current will carry you toward the most peaceful, clearest, and most healing dreams. You don't need to hurry anywhere. Time has already stopped for you. Let the patience of stone, the billions of years of sleep of the world be with you now. Now, with your mind, glide far beyond that cool crust you sleep upon, beyond that giant mantle and solid rocks. We are taking a dream journey toward the deepest point where darkness and heat meet in their purest form, where the lifeblood of the planet beats, toward the core of the earth. This is the sacred center where everything began, where life is protected by an invisible shield. Let's turn those immense data that science offers us into a melody of peace now. Exactly 6,300 kilometers beneath our feet, at a depth that would tire even the imagination, the heart of the planet beats without stopping. This heart consists of two layers, the outer core and the inner core. Imagine, the outer core is a giant, glowing ocean of molten iron and nickel. This ocean is not like any water we know. It is as hot as the surface of the sun, but as dense as honey. Every time our Earth rotates around itself. This giant liquid metal sea also sloshes slowly, creating giant whirlpools. This heavy and magnificent movement gives birth to one of the greatest miracles of geology, the magnetic field. The flow of this liquid metal works like a giant electric generator. That invisible but unshakable shield we call the magnetosphere is born right here, in that deep darkness. Visualize this shield in your mind. Like a compassionate cloak that protects the earth from the infinite, freezing, and sometimes turbulent radiation of space. Those scorching winds coming from the sun hit this invisible cloak and glide gently toward the poles. The enchanting dance of the northern lights is actually the signature in the sky, of how much our core protects us with great love. Those green and purple curtains are a silent song of the core. You are completely safe under this giant shield that blocks all that chaos of outer space, so that you can sleep. Let's go even deeper, to the very center. To the inner core. This is a solid crystal sphere made of iron and nickel, which can no longer remain liquid despite that immense pressure. This giant metal ball, as big as the moon, is the heaviest and densest part of the earth. Here, time and matter speak in a different language. This core stores that ancient heat remaining from the formation of the world, just like the embers of a fireplace. This fire, which has not cooled for billions of years, is that fundamental energy that allows the planet to survive, the continents to move, and the volcanoes to breathe. While you sleep, this giant crystal sphere beneath you continues to glow silently to keep the world warm and alive. Another source of the heat at this depth is radioactivity. Elements like uranium, thorium, and potassium hidden inside the rocks break down very slowly at the atomic level. This breakdown releases a tiny bit of heat every second, every minute. This atomic dance, which has been going on for billions of years, ensures that the internal heat of the Earth never runs out. This is nature's safest, most patient power plant. Imagine this heat as a soft blanket that warms you on a winter night. Kilometers below the Earth's crust, this heat slowly glides upwards, softens the rocks, and gives the planet that unique vitality. Think of those thousands of kilometers of distance between you and the core of the Earth. This giant mass supports you like a mother's lap. Gravity, that gentle attractive force born from that immense density of the core, is now binding you compassionately to your bed. If this force did not exist, neither our atmosphere could stay in place, nor our seas. Gravity is the silent whisper of the world saying to you, "Don't go, stay here." Surrender yourself completely to this attraction. Feel your body becoming heavier, becoming one with your bed, and establishing an invisible bond with the center of the world. Now, weigh the perfection of this giant mechanism in your mind once more. Those liquid metal rivers beneath the Earth, that giant crystal core, and that invisible magnetic cloak protecting us from space. All of them are working in perfect harmony right now, as you listen to this sentence. There is no disruption, there is no hurry. Everything is working according to that heavy and wise rhythm of the world. You are just a passenger resting within this immense order. Tonight, the heart of the world beats for you. That magnetic shield is sweeping all your worries and the noise of the outside world into the depths of the universe. Above you, there is only the silence of the stars and the protective cloak of the world. Let that ancient heat of the inner core calm your soul. Let those slow whirlpools of the outer core take away the complex thoughts in your mind. You are now connected to the center of the world, to that point of absolute silence. Listen to that deep, rumbling but equally peaceful song of the planet. This song has never stopped for 4.5 billion years. This is the song of existence and safety. Now, with this confidence, completely surrender yourself to that unshakable gravity offered to you by the Earth, and glide into that deepest, most protected layer of sleep. Let your heart be one with the heart of the world, your breath with the breath of the world. Sleep well, at the heart of the world, you are at your safest. Now, with your mind, leave the glowing, hot core of the Earth and the warm cloak of the magnetic field behind. Let us glide toward the most delicate miracle falling from the sky, the snowflakes, and the vast, white empire they have built by accumulating over billions of years, the world of glaciers. Glaciers are the most silent yet compassionate record-keepers of geology, they freeze time itself. Within their crystal hearts, they preserve the past breaths of our planet like a library of frozen memories. When you listen to the silence of a glacier, you are actually hearing a cool breath the world took thousands of years ago. Ice ages are like the moments of deepest sleep in the Earth's giant life cycle. Imagine every snowflake falling from the sky. When it touches the ground, it does not melt. It piles up, layer upon layer, and under its own weight, it slowly compresses, interlocking into ice crystals. This is the story of a snowflake's transformation into glacial ice. This process is so incredibly slow that the weight of the thousands of tons above pushes out all the air pockets, giving the ice that famous, deep, oceanic blue color. This blue is the color of purity and density. When you look into this blue, you can see how even light has been trapped among those crystals for thousands of years. Glaciers are not just stagnant masses of ice, they are the world's slowest but most powerful rivers. With the gentle invitation of gravity, they glide from mountain peaks down into valleys, at the speed of a human fingernail's growth. Do not let this slowness deceive you. The power residing beneath a glacier can shape the hardest granite as if it were Play-Doh. As the glacier moves, it plucks rocks from beneath it, using them like giant sheets of sandpaper to carve valleys into those magnificent U-shapes. The unique fjords of Norway or the sharp peaks of the Swiss Alps are actually the works of these giant chisels that glaciers have used patiently for thousands of years. Nature carves the curve of every valley with an effort spanning millennia, without ever hurrying. But why does the world fall into such a deep and cold sleep? Science tells us of the Milankovitch cycles. The rhythmic, slight changes in the Earth's orbit around the Sun, and that elegant wobble in its axis. This cosmic dance changes the amount of sunlight reaching the Earth by just a tiny fraction. But this tiny change is enough to spark the growth or retreat of massive glaciers. This is proof of the delicate balance of the universe. A cooling of just a few degrees causes a white blanket kilometers thick to be spread over the continents. Visualize that last ice age in your mind. Times when North America and Europe rested in absolute silence under a massive sheet of ice. These ices were so heavy that they pressed the Earth's crust down hundreds of meters into the mantle. This shows how even stone flexes under this white weight. Thousands of years later, when the ice melts, the crust slowly rises back up, as if taking a deep breath. This process, called isostatic rebound, continues today. The land rises a few millimeters closer to the sky every year. Feel this heavy motion breathing of the earth, that slow and peaceful rhythm, in your heart. The greatest secret of glaciers lies in the tiny air bubbles trapped inside them. An ice core pulled from the depths of a glacier is the most honest letter thrown into the heart of time. Inside those tiny bubbles, the atmosphere of hundreds of thousands of years ago, the air of that time, the pollen, and the volcanic dust, is imprisoned. When scientists examine these cores, they know exactly how many degrees the Earth was thousands of years ago, and how pure the air was. The glacier has meticulously archived every second of the past. When you place your hand on a glacier, you are actually touching a remnant of a wind from 10,000 years ago. That coldness is not a shiver, but a compassionate greeting from the past. Now, imagine yourself in this white, vast glacial plain. There is no sound around you, only the meditative hum of the wind and the deep, peaceful creaking of the ice under its own weight. The sky is so clear that the stars seem close enough to touch. The crystal sparkles on the ice are like the thoughts in your mind, slowly freezing into tranquility. The coldness is like a protective cocoon, insulating you from the outside world and allowing you to turn inward. Feel your body becoming heavy with this white silence. Just like a glacier, you are letting yourself go into your bed with all your weight. Your thoughts, like those tiny air bubbles inside the ice cores, are being safely trapped and buried in silence. You no longer need to hurry anywhere, you no longer need to solve anything. Time has frozen within the ice. There is only the peace of that blue depth, that ancient cleanliness, and absolute silence. Let the thousands of years of sleep of the glaciers be your sleep now. Just as the world rests and refreshes beneath that white blanket, you are resting now. Let the perfect geometry of the crystals open doors of peace in your mind. Let all the fatigue of the past remain in the depths of those ices, and when you wake up in the morning, wake up renewed like a fresh, sparkling river emerging from beneath a melting glacier. But for now, surrender yourself completely to that white silence. Sleep well, you are in the purest dream of the world, in the memory of the ice. Now, with your mind, leave the vast whiteness of the glaciers and descend into the cool and safe shadow of the earth, into the deepest and most silent rooms of the world. Caves and crystal chambers. This is a place where time is measured only by drops, where noise stays at the door, and where atoms come together in a magnificent order to build a crystal dream. Geology tells us that caves are the lungs of the world. They are the fruit of that secret and dark dance, the dialogue between water and stone that has lasted for millions of years. Everything begins with a raindrop falling to the soil. As the raindrop filters through the atmosphere, it absorbs carbon dioxide and takes on a slightly acidic structure. As it seeps through the layers of the soil, it reaches the heart of the limestone, full of calcium carbonate. Water does not burn the stone, it does not break it. It only dissolves it gently, penetrates it, and discovers the hidden paths within. This is a patience that lasts for millions of years. A tiny crack turns into a narrow corridor over centuries, and into magnificent halls where you can fit giant cathedrals over millennia. In that absolute darkness of the caves, it is impossible to feel how time slips away. Now, look at the ceiling of one of these giant halls. Imagine a single drop of water seeping from there. Like the compassion of a mother. That drop carries the essence of the limestone, that white calcium mineral, with it. It clings to the edge of the ceiling, hanging there for a while, as if unable to decide whether it belongs to gravity or to the stone itself. And finally, gravity prevails. As the drop falls, it leaves behind a microscopic ring of calcite. This is how a stalactite is born. To grow 1 centimeter, it sometimes waits for 100 years. Sometimes 1,000. Each stalactite is the collective signature of millions of drops that have hung from the ceiling for thousands of years. Looking at a stalactite is like looking at a frozen waterfall of time. And what about the point where that drop falls on the floor? The same patience works there, too. That rich calcite drop seeping from the ceiling begins to rise slowly on the cave floor. These columns, called stalagmites, are symbols of patience and ascent. Thousands of years pass, and that thin hand hanging from the ceiling and this steady hand rising from the floor meet in the middle of the cave. This massive union, called a column, is the embrace of stone and water for millions of years. Once this union takes place, time seems to stand still. In that absolute silence of the cave, the echo of a single drop spreads through the void as the most peaceful music of the world. Drip, drip, drip. This sound begins to harmonize with your heartbeat, with your breath. Deeper in the caves, in those secret rooms where light never reaches, crystals awaken. Crystals are the geometric perfection of nature. A crystal is a magnificent lattice structure built by atoms coming together like architects, without a single margin of error. Crystals are hidden in those deep chambers where magma cools slowly, or in those unique sparkles left by mineral waters on cave walls. The hexagonal prisms of quartz, the rhombohedral elegance of calcite. Each is a concrete version of that secret mathematical order of the universe. Imagine, you are in that giant Nika crystal cave in Mexico. Giant selenite crystals, 10 meters long, are white and glittering as if they came from another planet. Think of the time required for these crystals to grow. Water flowed around those giant crystals at that constant temperature for millions of years. Placing atoms one by one onto those giant beams. The light trapped inside a crystal is actually a memory of millions of years ago. Even if you do not touch them, you can feel that absolute order and tranquility radiated by those smooth surfaces and sharp angles in your mind. A crystal is the order within chaos, it is the absolute peace within complexity. Now, imagine yourself lying on that soft and cool stone floor in one of these crystal rooms. All the noises, storms, the hum of cities, and the never-ending race of time outside are left hundreds of meters above the rock layers. Here, only in absolute silence and the sound of those rhythmic water drops reach. The air of the cave is so fresh, so cool, and so stagnant that with every breath, you feel your lungs becoming as clear as a crystal. Feel your body slowly becoming heavy with this coolness. Just like a stalagmite, you are being sealed to your bed with all your weight. The thoughts in your mind are slowing down like the water drops on the ceiling of that cave. Each thought accumulates at the tip of a stalactite, and slowly falls into the darkness and disappears. Your mind is now as smooth and calm as those cave walls. You don't need to do anything, you don't need to hurry anywhere. The cave surrounds you, the crystals protect you. Time has stopped for you here. With the growth rate of stones spanning millions of years, you too are gliding toward that deepest, most glittering layer of sleep. That unshakable safety of the cave and that perfect order of the crystals are now in your soul. While you sleep, that single water drop will continue to seep from the ceiling and write the story of the world. But now, surrender yourself completely to that absolute tranquility. Sleep well, you are in the deepest room of the world, in the most peaceful dream. With your mind, let us leave the narrow, safe corridors of the caves and journey toward the vast, dark depths of the ocean, where every shade of blue slowly fades into an absolute black. These are the abyssal plains of the earth, the largest and most tranquil realm of our planet. The immense geology of the ocean floor is the greatest evidence of how the world constantly regenerates itself. Here, under the staggering weight of the water, time is compressed into a state of absolute stillness. Imagine the comforting pressure of miles of water above you, a pressure strong enough to crush all worries, yet gentle enough to bond you to the very heart of the world. In this absolute darkness, one of the most magnificent scenes of geology is performed, the mid-ocean ridges. Imagine a giant mountain range stretching for thousands of miles in the middle of the ocean, hidden beneath the waves. But these mountains are not weathered by wind like those on land. They are the points where red-hot magma from beneath the crust seeps through the gap between tectonic plates and meets the sea. The moment the magma touches the freezing deep-sea water, it solidifies with a profound silence. This is the birth of new crust. Every second, every minute, fresh energy from the Earth's interior expands the ocean floor. It is like the giant ribcage of the Earth expanding slightly with every breath it takes. A short distance from these ridges, hydrothermal vents rise from the floor. These giant chimneys vent trapped heat from the interior back into the dark water in the form of billowing black plumes. These plumes are actually boiling waters rich in sulfur and minerals. In this extreme environment where light never reaches and pressure is absolute, you encounter life in its most primal and resilient form. Giant tube worms, colorless shrimp, and bacteria that derive energy not from the sun, but directly from the Earth's internal heat. Life here flows with a cosmic patience. Visualize the faint, low-frequency hum emitted by these vents. It is a peaceful whisper, the Earth breathing its inner fire into the cool abyss. Our journey now takes us to the deepest points of the ocean. To giant chasms like the Mariana Trench. These are subduction zones, where an oceanic plate, being older and heavier, slides beneath another plate and descends back into the hot mantle. We are talking about a depth of 11,000 meters. If you were to drop Mount Everest into this trench, its summit would still be 2 kilometers below the surface. At the bottom of these trenches, time stands still. Every sediment grain, every speck of dust that falls from above takes thousands of years to reach the floor. This rain of dust forms the softest, deepest bed on the planet. These deep trenches are not just pits, they are the recycling centers of the Earth. The old crust, worn and laden with millions of years of oceanic memories, returns to the mantle here. There, in that immense heat, it melts, is purified, and waits for millions of years to emerge again as fresh lava from a volcano. This is the ultimate proof that nothing is ever lost, everything only changes form. Your exhaustion, the old thoughts in your mind, can also sink into this deep, warm piece of the world to be transformed. You do not need to carry anything, the world recycles everything for you. Now, imagine yourself lying on these abyssal plains, on that soft, cool sediment blanket. The miles of water above you are a compassionate protective layer, insulating you from the entire outside world. There is no light here, no noise, only the heavy, rhythmic pulse of the water from the deep. This pulse is the echo of the Earth's own heart. Every water molecule reminds you of how vast, how safe, and how patient the world is. Feel your body becoming heavy with this massive volume of water. Your bed is as soft and inviting as the 1,000-year-old sediment beds of the ocean. All the clutter in your mind dissolves in the dark, clear waters of the abyss. Only the pure, silent core of your existence remains. You do not need to reach anywhere. The ancient currents of the ocean are slowly drifting you toward the most peaceful, serene dreams. Time has stopped for you here on the ocean floor. Just feel the deep breath of the earth. New worlds are being born, old ones are transforming, and you are resting at the most secure, quietest point of this magnificent cycle. The infinite darkness of the ocean will feel as soft as a nightlight, as familiar as a mother's embrace. Now, surrender yourself completely to the ancient sleep of the water. Sleep well, you are in the most peaceful dream at the heart of the ocean. Now, with your mind, leave the heavy, humid darkness of the ocean and journey toward the heart of the deserts, where the sky opens like an infinite void, and sand and wind perform their unique dance. Deserts are the most honest and simple geographies of the world. Here, geology strips away its masks, the raw struggle between stone, sun, and wind is revealed in its purest form. A desert is not just a heap of sand. It is a vast shroud of time woven patiently by the wind over thousands of years. In this endless sea of gold, time flows as gently and unstoppably as the thin trickle of an hourglass. Visualize those immense Aeolian processes. In the desert, the wind takes on the work that water does in rivers. It is like an invisible but ever-present hand. It slowly but stubbornly polishes every bump and every hardness on the rocks over millions of years. In this process called deflation, the wind lifts light particles from the ground, leaving behind only those hard, solemn, and polished stones called desert pavement. These stones are like ancient jewels glowing under the sun, each a silent witness to how many thousands of years the wind has touched it. The wind's greatest masterpiece, however, is the dunes. Consider the journey of a single grain of sand. That tiny quartz crystal, once part of a giant mountain, is lifted by the wind and glides through the air, striking another grain. This constant collision and rolling give the sand its perfect roundness and smoothness. Dunes are the world's slowest waves. A Barkhan dune, with its elegant crescent shape, can cross a whole desert by moving only a few meters each year. This is a migration that does not hurry, it is a journey without a destination. Imagine the wind hitting the crest of the dune, pouring the sand gently down the other side. This flow is as peaceful as a waterfall, but as silent as a prayer. The wadis, those dried-up riverbeds, are also hidden in the desert's geology. For years, not a single drop of rain falls on these lands. But when that rare moment arrives, the desert suddenly comes alive. Those brief flash floods erode the rocks rapidly and carve deep canyons. This is 1,000 years of change happening in a second. Then the waters recede, leaving behind only the smell of wet earth under the sand, and the absolute silence where the sun reigns again. This extreme patience of the desert is actually nature's way of balancing itself. Deserts know how to wait better than anything else. When night falls, desert geology assumes its most mystic state. The scorching heat of the day gives way to a freezing coolness. The stones crack slowly with this sudden change in temperature, and the sound of this thermal expansion is the only music of the desert at night. Click, click. This is the stone breathing. The sky is so close that the misty light of the Milky Way flows over the sands like a silver river. Under this light, every grain of sand sparkles like a star. The desert and space merge, you cannot tell where the world ends and the universe begins. Now, imagine yourself lying right in the middle of this infinite sea of sand, on the soft slope of a dune. The sand beneath you is as flexible as a waterbed and as compassionate as a mother, taking the shape of your body. The weight of your blanket merges with the ancient silence of the desert. The faint rustle of sand brought by the wind from afar sweeps away all the clutter in your mind. You do not need to reach anywhere. In the desert, there are no roads. Only existence. Feel your body becoming heavy with this warm, soft sand. With every breath, see the clean, dry air of the desert refreshing your lungs. The thoughts in your mind are scattering like those dust particles blown by the wind, disappearing into the darkness of the night. Now, there is only you and the world's oldest, wisest tranquility. The desert surrounds you, the wind sings the world's slowest lullaby for you. Time has stopped for you here on this infinite dune. Just feel the world's slightly cooling breath. The dunes will continue to shift, the stars will find their way, and you will fall into your safest sleep in the heart of this immense peace. Let the unshakable patience of the desert be a sanctuary in your soul now. Now, surrender yourself completely to the soft sleep of the sand. Sleep well, you are in the clearest dream in the infinity of the desert. Now, with your mind, let us leave the dry and silent sands of the desert and journey toward the purest, most turbulent, and most creative energy flowing in the veins of the world, the majestic world of volcanoes. Throughout human history, volcanoes have often been seen as symbols of fear and destruction. But tonight, we will look at the other side of the coin, at the immense tranquility behind that fire and the patient kitchen of creation. Volcanoes are actually the safety valves of the earth. They are sacred points that balance the massive pressure and heat thousands of miles below the surface, allowing our planet to breathe. Imagine standing on the slope of a volcano. Beneath you, the heart of the world is beating, and that heart is preparing to build a new earth with every beat. Let us glide toward the magma chamber, hidden in the depths of our narrative. Kilometers beneath the surface. That glowing river is trapped inside a massive stone dome. Magma does not just wait there, it is like a living organism containing trapped water vapor, carbon dioxide, and sulfur dioxide. These gases are dissolved within the magma under the unimaginable pressure of the deep earth, like the energy trapped inside an unopened bottle. Whenever a crack or a weak point appears in the crust, this giant energy begins to climb slowly toward the light. This ascent is the result of a preparation that can last for millions of years. No volcano hurries, it waits for its own time to come, for the great balance of the world to need it. When the magma reaches the surface and releases its first breath to the sky, it is now called lava. Visualize the flow of lava as an ocean in the slowest motion possible. Think of the Pahoehoe lavas of Hawaii, that smooth, rope-like, heavy-flowing glowing river. These lavas are so hot and so fluid that they glide over the earth like honey. With every centimeter it advances, it does not just burn the ground, it embraces it and spreads its own protective stone armor over it. Listen to those faint crackling sounds of the cooling stone. Those crystalline sounds are one of the world's most ancient lullabies. This is the sound of turbulence evolving into peace, and fire turning into a permanent stillness. And what about those magnificent stratovolcanoes? Those perfect cones rising above the clouds, like Mount Fuji in Japan. They are the works of patience and accumulation spanning thousands of years. Every eruption adds a new layer of ash and lava to the mountain. Layer upon layer accumulates, like the growth rings of a tree. The volcano writes its own history onto its own body. These mountains are monuments to that immense thrusting power the world feels for itself. Reaching toward the sky. Look at that thin plume of steam rising toward the stars from the summit. This is the earth sweating, the earth releasing its excess energy peacefully into the void. The true miracle of volcanoes lies in the silence after the eruption. When the lavas cool, those jet-black and seemingly lifeless stones actually form the most fertile soils on Earth. Volcanic ashes generously release rich minerals like potassium, phosphorus, and calcium into the ground. A few years later, you see the most vibrant greenery and forests reborn from among those black lava fields. Fire has not come to destroy life, but to restart it more strongly. Think of the fresh lands of Iceland or the vineyards of Italy, all are nourished by the mineral wealth coming from within that fire. The volcano is the great sculptor that both deconstructs and recreates the world. Visualize a caldera in your mind. A giant, peaceful crater lake that has collapsed into itself after an eruption. That hole that once breathed fire has now become a stagnant, clear, and freezing cold lake reflecting the blue of the sky. Feel the peace of this transformation in your heart. Even the most turbulent storm eventually surrenders to this absolute tranquility. Even the most scorching fire can eventually turn into such a cool lake. Let the turbulent thoughts in your mind, the scorching fatigue of the day, collapse into themselves like this caldera and leave their place to the peace of that deep, blue, silent lake. Now, imagine yourself lying on the slope of this dormant volcano, on those soft volcanic tufts that are still slightly warm. That very faint, protective heat coming from the ground is seeping into every cell of your body. This heat is a silent message from the world saying, everything is fine. I am here. The stars in the sky are watching themselves in the mirror of the crater lake. The night is so calm that even the distant, rhythmic hum coming from the depths feels like a lullaby. Feel your body becoming heavy with this volcanic soil. With every breath, see that the fire has subsided and left its place to an unshakable stone stillness. All the clutter in your mind is extinguished like glowing lava entering water, leaving behind only a smooth, jet-black peace. Now, there is only you and the giant, warm heart of the world. The volcano surrounds you, the ancient heat of the earth protects your sleep. Time has stopped for you here on the edge of this crater. Just feel the deep and warm breath of the earth. Magma chambers will rest, continents will slide slowly, and you will fall into your safest sleep in the very heart of this magnificent creation. Let the patience of fire be a sanctuary in your soul now. Now, surrender yourself completely to the lap of that warm and ancient sleep. Sleep well. You are in the clearest dream where the fire of the world has found its peace. Now, with your mind, rise slowly from the warm slopes of the volcanoes, the dark depths of the ocean, and the white silence of the glaciers, toward that magnificent whole where all these pieces unite. In this final act of our geological journey, we are no longer looking at a single stone or a single layer, but at the crystal sphere that breathes, lives, and carries us in its bosom as a whole, our Earth. This is the massive home where every atom has a story. where nothing is lost, and where everything is entwined in an infinite cycle. Tonight, as we read the last page of this ancient story, we are actually discovering the geological foundations of our own inner peace. Imagine watching the Earth from space, from within that absolute silence. That deep blue sphere is like a jewel glowing, living, and constantly transforming in the freezing darkness of the universe. The rock cycle, whispered by our journey, is actually the planet's way of healing and renewing itself. Consider this: that small piece of stone outside your window right now might have been a glowing fire from a volcano millions of years ago. Perhaps it once touched the bone of an ancient fish at the deepest point of an ocean. And today, that stone is resting in the same timeline as you. Matter never disappears, it only changes form, it changes its story. But its essence remains the same. This is the greatest consolation the Earth offers us: continuity. Geology teaches us that no storm lasts forever and no mountain is eroded eternally. While the crust moves inch by inch every second, it is actually building a part of a larger balance. New peaks are born as plates collide, valleys deepen as rivers flow, and oceans widen slightly every year. There is no hurry in any of these massive movements. The Earth has been placing every piece with great patience for 4.5 billion years. Those small rushes in your life, those daily anxieties, are as light as a grain of sand against this immense patience. Feel this lightness. The unshakable patience of the world is now seeping into your mind, into your soul. Let us visit the giant memory of our planet once more. The layers beneath us still hide the deep silence of the Precambrian. The wet dreams of the Paleozoic, and the magnificent giants of the Mesozoic. The soil does not forget the past, it protects it and adds new chapters upon it. As you prepare to sleep right now, you are becoming a part of this giant memory. Everything you experienced during the day is slowly settling into the depths of your mind, just like those sedimentary layers. The important things are crystallizing, while the exhausting ones dissolve in the purifying waters of the ocean. The Earth has prepared this night specially for you. It stretched that magnetic shield over you, bound you gently to your bed with that gravity, and enveloped you with that ancient heat of the inner core. Now, imagine yourself as part of that giant pillar stretching from the very center of the Earth to the most distant star in the sky. You are at the very center of this cosmic geometry. The iron in your body comes from the same source as that molten metal river in the Earth's core. The calcium in your bones is of the same lineage as the minerals in those ancient limestone beds. You are not in a foreign place, you are in your own home, in your own essence. You are as safe as the mountains are steady. You are as free as the rivers are fluid. Let this feeling of unshakable confidence cover your entire body, from your toes to your head. The cold-blooded peace of stone and the meditative softness of water are spreading. Your bed is as soft as the most comfortable sediment layer the world offers you. Your blanket is as light and warm as the protective gas cloud of the atmosphere. You no longer need to control anything. The giant force that moves continents is also managing your sleep with great care. The planet will continue to rotate, stones will continue to transform, and time will flow in its magnificent river, but for you, it is now time to stop. The last thoughts in your mind are slowing down like those final water drops falling from the ceiling of a cave. Drip, drip, And finally, the moment of absolute silence arrives. Like that dark, clear, and peaceful silence at the bottom of the ocean. Now there is only your breath, a breath in harmony with the light, rhythmic breathing of the earth. Tonight, you will sleep at the heart of the world, with the peace of all geological eons. Ancient forests will grow in your dreams, crystals will sparkle, and oceans will ripple compassionately. The eternal song of the earth is now playing only for you. This song is a song of patience, resilience, and beauty spanning 4.5 billion years. Surrender yourself completely to this song. All the fatigue of the past has been entrusted to the stones. And all the anxieties of the future have been left to the infinite void of the wind. Now, there is only this moment. The unshakable, smooth peace of this moment. Let the eternal sleep of the crystal sphere be with you now. Let the patience of stone, the memory of water, and the tranquility of fire fill your soul. Tonight, you are sleeping not just as a human, but as a beloved part of this giant planet. The earth embraces you, the stars watch you. And time weaves the most beautiful dreams for you. Now, surrender yourself completely to that infinite tranquility, to that deepest geological sleep. Sleep well. You are in an eternal peace at the heart of the world.